We are now just a couple of days away from the big press conference with the Toronto Maple Leafs ownership, Shanahan, and all those guys, and we're getting more and more reports about Sheldon Keefe's future potentially being in jeopardy, and the head and lead candidate has been revealed for the Leafs' next coaching job if Keefe ends up parting ways. So we're going to break all that down. Before we do, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We noticed a large percentage of you guys who are watching are not subscribed. If you are a part of that 80 or so percent, make sure to hit the subscribe button. What are you waiting for? We produce 1 to 2, sometimes 3 or 4 videos a day with all the news coming out now. We're very, very, very close to 9,000, which is an incredible goal. Thank you guys for that. Your support has been unbelievable. But Darius, it's about that time we talk about Sheldon Keefe a little bit more in depth here because we got a lot of reports coming out. The news is a little bit slower today regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's going to be like that until Friday. The meeting and the press conference between the ownership and all these guys got delayed till Friday, which we'll get into probably in another video. But let's get into it, Darius. There's some interesting things here now. There's a bunch of different things. So we're just going to start with kind of Sheldon Keefe and him potentially leaving because there's a bunch of different weird things happening now. And obviously Sheldon Keefe is most likely going to be parting ways with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Whether we hear about that Friday is yet to be seen. But rumors are circulating regarding Craig Berube, and he's obviously on NHL on TNT, and there's just been a lot of weird things going on with him. They zoomed in on Berube's face when Paul Bissonnette made the Leafs coaching reference, and it just seems like Keefe is going to be on his way out. You see this report from Elliot Friedman. He kind of dropped a bomb here saying Elliot Friedman gets the sense that Keefe will get another opportunity in the league if he's fired, and he brings up that in the summer of 23, the Leafs discussed who could replace Keefe before ultimately extending him for another year. So that was a little bit of a Friedman bomb that we kind of, especially the second part, that we kind of got some info on. So what are your thoughts on this, Darius? A lot to go over here, but we kind of got a feeling of who the replacement might be, and Elliot Friedman basically revealing that Sheldon Keefe is most likely on his way out, but we'll get another shot somewhere. Maybe Pittsburgh, maybe the Devils, maybe somewhere like that.
Yeah, like we mentioned yesterday, like if a coaching job is available in Pittsburgh, it sounds like Sheldon Keefe might end up going there to reunite with Kyle Dubas. But there's a lot at play here. Craig Berube has been without a job in terms of coaching for quite a while, which is weird because his resume is pretty good. And I think for the Leafs, he would be probably the top candidate if possible, right? If they are looking to move on. And I would expect Keefe, just because of the way the press conference went yesterday and the way the language they're using, the fact that they moved this press conference from Thursday now to Friday with management, and now they're naming who's going to be there. I would expect Keefe to be fired before Thursday. But we're just going to have to wait and see. I wonder if that whole management press conference is going to be, hey, we're running it back again one more year. Like,
don't say that.
That is still very much up in the air. But personally, I hope that's not the case. But in terms of Craig Berube, yeah, there's a few things the last couple of days that seem like he may end up the Leafs coach. And I mentioned in a video yesterday too, where I like Craig Berube because obviously he's been there. He's won a Stanley Cup. And I think the Leafs need to start introducing more people into the organization who have actually won the Stanley Cup, who've been there, or at least deeper in the playoffs, who have experience with that type of hockey. So Craig Berube does check that box, and he was a former Maple Leaf. He understands the organization, obviously what they've cultivated here, what it means to be a Maple Leaf. So I think he would be a great candidate for the head coaching position. But there's a lot at play, including decisions that Berube has to make for himself too, including other teams. We'll get to that too. But Sheldon Keefe, I would suspect he's gone. I would suspect he'd be gone by the end of the week when that press conference happens with management.
Yeah, that press conference on Friday is going to provide some juicy stuff either way. But again, we'll definitely make sure to cover that once it happens. But here is another Friedman bomb from Elliot Friedman saying they definitely consider someone like Berube, who we mentioned, and he spoke out on Shanahan saying the heat is on right now. This will be Keith Pelly's decision, and for me, the only question is how much time does Pelly need to make the call. And again, this is a topic for probably another video regarding how about all the meeting that's happening on Friday and everything, kind of getting into that. But Darius, yes, obviously changes are going to happen, and Craig Berube won the Cup with the St. Louis Blues. And it might be interesting that he hasn't gotten another gig elsewhere, but we'll get into that kind of further here in a second. But there's just so many reports, or rumors I should say, no one has fully reported it yet, at least none of the notable guys, regarding Craig Berube. The fourth period saying changes expected in Toronto after the playoff exit, and Craig Berube to Toronto got brought up here, makes sense. There's not many available jobs. He's not hired anywhere. And was clearly waiting for something before making a decision. Well, there is a lot of available jobs, I should say. There's not a lot of them, but they're all dwindling down fast. Ottawa Senators hired their coach, and just a lot of moving parts around the league right now. And, the coaching positions are kind of pretty vacant right now for a lot of teams, which is an interesting thing with Craig Berube. And I'm going to bring this up, Darius, real quick here. And This is Craig Berube. As we noted in the space, sources say Berube is intrigued by the Ottawa job, but has other options, and the sense is he also wants to see what happens with Keefe in Toronto. We haven't been able to confirm if he's had formal discussions with the Senators. And then yesterday night, I believe, they hired their new coach some point during the day yesterday. So now, obviously, Berube is no longer a candidate for the Ottawa job. But the key thing here is that he says that he has a sense that he wants to see what happens with Keefe in Toronto. And if that's the case, maybe the pressure's on the Leafs now to move a bit faster to get some of these candidates before they get scooped up by another team like the Devils, which we'll get into in a second. But what are your thoughts on, Craig Berube seems like the guy. He's a veteran, played, has the Leaf culture, played for the Leafs. So I don't know.
I would suspect, and this is me just speculating, that the Leafs started to do their due diligence a little bit early on in searching for coaches that are available. Because, Craig Berube has been unemployed in terms of head coaching for quite a while. I feel like a team would have scooped him up already because he's one of the, maybe top 5 candidates out there. And obviously, like you said, Ottawa just got their coach, and New Jersey's in the mix too, which I want to mention as well, for Craig Berube. So I would suspect that Toronto has already gone out of their way and maybe just, felt that out a little bit and seen what's available and what people would be open to in terms of coaching if a certain situation were to happen. Like, for example, losing in Game 7 in Round 1 to Boston. If that were to happen, what would that look like after if Keefe was to get fired? So I am really wondering if Craig Berube is holding out for this head coaching job because he knows something might come up. Maybe the Leafs, tip them off that if this current situation were to happen, then Keefe is gone. We would, like you to be the head coach. I'm not saying that absolutely happened. I'm just speculating that. But I wonder if that's already happened, if the Leafs have already started to crack that door open and say, hey, listen, if these situations were to happen, we have to move forward with somebody else. And I would suspect that losing in Game 7, like I said, to the Bruins would be one of those situations. So I like Craig Berube. I think he would be a pretty good coach here in Toronto. And like I said, they need more guys, not just management and coaches, players too, who've won the Stanley Cup. I think they need to start injecting the team with more of that.
Yeah, we saw the impact that Joel Edmondson made, and obviously they didn't win the series, but Edmondson, a cup proven winner. But let's get into this now before we wrap up here. You wanted to touch on this, Darius. I touched on it a bit. So Pierre LeBrun, he said the Devils hope to have a new coach hired within the next week or so. They should have a clear picture of things by the end of the week, and the Kings haven't decided their course yet on the head coaching front. GM Rob Blake will meet with Jim Hiller next week. Kings liked how Hiller handled himself, but we'll see. Now, obviously, Mike Berube could be a potential candidate here if they're looking to get their head coach within the next 7 or 10 days. If maybe Berube will wait out for the Leafs, maybe if the Leafs don't fire Keefe in timely fashion. Obviously, Keith Pelly is newer here, obviously his first year, and he's trying to juggle things, see how fast he wants to make these changes. I wouldn't want to lose Berube, to another team like the Devils.
Yeah, I think you have to act fast, but in playing in all of that, Keith Pelly, I don't think you get hired for his role if you don't already have a plan in place. Like if you're doing the interview process, I'm sure he presented like, this is what I want to do with the organization, but that's for another video. If you can bring up the screenshot again, the language in this is what intrigues me because the Devils and Berube are linked together like the Leafs and Berube, and they say that they hope to have a new coach hired in the next week, and they should have a clearer picture by the end of this week. The Leafs management press conference is this week. I wonder if Keefe is gone in the next couple of days, again, just speculation, and we see a new coach join them on that panel for the press conference on Friday, and that would be where the Devils get their clarity. So maybe I'm just reading into the language too much, but it looks like the Devils haven't made their choice because they're not sure what's going to go on. Berube, I'm sure, is considering his options, and the whole thing with Bissonnette too. Like he did not hide any facial expressions there. Like it was kind of like, you got me. Right. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I think a lot of teams are just waiting for dominoes to fall, and that's why they haven't made hires yet.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens over the next few days because this man you're looking at right there with the great smile could be the next Toronto Maple Leafs head coach. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. We'll have more videos coming out for you. And see you soon.